Check 1 2, check. Our full council meeting. Do we have any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from Victoria, Charleston, Councillor Dalton, Nettle, Taylor and Podger.
Any public questions or statements?
None received.
Any councillor questions or statements?
None received.
Minutes of previous meeting. Is everybody happy for me to sign these later? Have you all read them? Yeah? Okay.
Just one thing, sorry, I've just forgot to say, I read out a statement from Diggs in my report at the last meeting, and that doesn't seem to be included in the minutes.
Okay. I'll put a note on it for you.
Yeah, but they have got a copy of it written, so on the email.
I didn't do the last meeting, so I don't know what happened there. Any declarations of interest?
None received.
Any dispensations?
None received.
Okay, chair's announcements. I'm going to make it brief because obviously we've got a lot to look at tonight. So my only announcement is, have we all managed to look at the papers? Because the majority of most of them is just to note rather than discuss, because otherwise we're going to be here all night. You agreed? Good. That's okay then. Administration leader announcements.
Thank you, Chair. No announcements from me, other than just to echo what you've said. Much of the debate we had on much of the items on this agenda we had last week at Finance. So, yeah, carry on. Thank you.
Okay. Referral of minutes for Planning Committee, Communities Committee, Environment Committee, another Planning Committee and the Finance Committee. Is there anyone that wishes to? No one here from Planning. Mine from Environment is literally work still goes on in Elizabeth Gardens and testing has started at Lower Bemerton. Moving on to... Happy to know. Are you happy to know? Yes. Okay. Number 10, explanatory report on the annual governance and accountability return. Steve, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. This first report on this evening's agenda is purely just to explain the whole framework of this, and some of you have gone through this a number of years and you're very familiar with it, but for anyone who isn't, this sort of sets the scene. So every year between 2009-10 to 2023-24, this council, like all other parish councils in the country, was designated a smaller authority, and therefore it came under the AGAR accounts and audit regime. But for 25-26, we're also a smaller authority, which is why we're under the AGAR regime for that year just ended. And that's why the statutory requirement this evening is governed by the AGAR process. And that sort of sets out the order in which we do business this evening. In section 3 of this report, as it sets out 24-25, we were the only parish council ever to be redesignated a principal authority, and that still is the case. And that's why on this evening's agenda and last year's equivalent, you had two sets of accounts, the AGAR set of accounts and what's called the SORP accounts, or Statement of Recommended Practice. Last year, the SORP was the statutory requirement and the AGAR was just a nice to have continuity. This year, as we're a smaller authority again, the AGAR is back to being the statutory requirement and the SORP is a nice to have. And going forwards, the Chief Exec, myself, and I think councillors all acknowledge that the SORP accounts are much more like what the rest of the world does in terms of large private and public sector organisations. So on this evening's agenda, when we get to that point, you'll see that there's a profit and loss account, a balance sheet and things like that. Whereas under AGAR, there's a single page of numbers, which we'll also go through this evening, but it doesn't really look like most other sets of accounts and isn't very comparable. But because of this change in statutory requirements between 23-24, our last year as AGAR, then 24-25 as our only year of SORP, and now back to 25-26 again as AGAR. That's why it might look a little bit confusing, but each of the report fulfills a specific function, and we can take you through each of those and answer any questions as we get to those. The table at the bottom of page 2 of this report, 5.1, sets out each of these reports, which we'll come to later on the agenda. But hopefully that sort of sets the scene and we can go through each report one at a time. Can't imagine there's any questions at this point, but I'm happy to take any. Nope. Okay.
Are we taking all this on block then?
Councillor Hocking.
Are we taking all these on block in one go effectively?
That is the proposal, councillor.
In that case, a couple of questions.
Yes, Councillor
all right.
Hocking, sorry.
Thank you, Janine. And Steve, going back to SORP versus AGAR and last year having to have SORP accounts, I would expect those accounts will never, ever, 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 ever be audited by whoever audits SORP accounts. If the SPAA couldn't find anybody to do it then, they certainly won't be able to do it now. So I would take those figures, put them in a box and bury them in a cupboard, because we're never going to be able to, we'll never use those again. Looking through item 11, one of the recommendations there was for a new finance and IT system. I think purely for councillors, for ease of access to information, reports, etc., etc., etc. And I'll use my example that I usually do of the crematorium. How's that performing? Pull up a report, profit and loss. I think once we've got the list of priorities we're working through at the moment for this year, I think this is the top priority for the next financial year. I would like to see that in place as soon as possible, and I think it would make everybody's life, including officers and including finance, a lot easier. Question for Steve, actually, through Janine, if I may. Steve, item 13 on the SORP accounts, page 6 of 8. What is a non-cash movement?
Sorry, councillor. We're on the item 11.
Sorry. I thought
when you were talking about moving them on block, I thought you were referring to the 4 recommendations: 2.1, 2.2,
yeah.
2.3, 2.4
In
on
that
item
case,
11.
In that case, I'm obviously confused, so I'll shut up and come back at the right point of the agenda. Chair, sorry. Thank you.
That's okay, Sven. Okay. Yeah.
Councillor Charlton.
That's the one. Sorry, it's been a long day already.
If there seems to be no question, I'm very happy to move all the recommendations, 2.1 through 2.4.
All those in favour?
First and second.
Any against or abstaining? No. Unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chair, happy to move to 12.
Item 12 then. Thank you, Chair. So what you've just approved, the annual governance statement, that included the detailed internal auditors report And you'll have seen in that the internal auditor has gone through the AGAR accounts as stated in item 12. So you've got some reassurance that these aren't just figures that I've cooked up. An independent person has looked at them, gone through each of them, ran some tests to make sure that they're complete and accurate, and are happy with them. So you can use that as some reassurance. In addition to the independent internal auditor that's done that amount of work in item 11, once you've approved, if you approve the AGAR accounts this evening and they're signed off, they then go out to public inspection for 30 working days, and at the same time are also given to the external auditor. We have now got the external auditor we had 2 years ago. KPF Littlejohn has been appointed our external auditor. Now we're back into smaller authority league. So they'll be conducting their own external audit checks and tests during the summer. And the statutory deadline is for them to have completed that work by the 30th of September. So there's also a further degree of independent checking of these accounts. But having said all of that, I'm confident these are accurate and complete. Just quickly looking at the accounts and comparing the 2 years, you've got 31st of March 2025 restated, 31st of March 2026, which is obviously the year in question this evening. You can see halfway down, box 7, balances carried forward. This isn't the profit. This is the sort of retained earmarked reserves, including the general reserve. But if you were to look at one figure on the AGAR accounts, to look at the health of the organisation, the fact that they were 3.3 million last year, 2 years ago, and 3.7 million at the end of March 26 shows that we've got extra retained reserves, and that is the equivalent of the surplus that we made in the year. Other than that, happy to take any questions on the detail of the AGAR report. That's it really. It's just to make sure that once you're content, if you if you vote to approve these, then at the end of this evening's meeting, the chair will be asked to countersign these accounts to show that both the full council and myself as RFO are content with them to go out to public inspection.
It's just where we've got the handwritten figures, where we've got restated. Is that going to be amended, or is that how the form will now stay?
So the handwritten bit is the extra bit, just to let you know what the original figure was before restated. For audit purposes, the printed figures are the correct figures. So they're so 20,169,994 is the restated figure which the auditor's content with, whereas the previous figure before the auditor looked at it was the figure you see handwritten. That was purely to let you know that the restatement amount was tiny. It was about 7. The actual restatement is the fact that we found that a camera, which should have been included in the assets for that year, we only found out a year later should have been in there. So the auditor quite rightly said, well, you need to adjust for that. So apologies that it looks untidy now. Of course, that particular year, 31st of March 25, we didn't have an external auditor for either SORP or AGAR. So again, it was more important than ever that I show you any adjustments, because we could have adjusted it to any figure and an auditor wouldn't have been able to sign it off. So it is just the difference is the value of a camera.
Can I have a proposer, please, to note this report? Councillor Last and Councillor Charleston. Happy to second it. Are we all in favour? Yeah, unanimous.
Just to note that it was to approve rather than to note, but yes, I'm sure the same
They did it.
applies. On to item 13.
Yeah.
So this is the SORP version, the Statement of Recommended Practice. The difference between the two is mostly in the way in which deferred income is treated. So under AGAR, all of the money we receive irrespective of what purpose and what obligations or conditions are associated with it, whether it's Section 106 SIL, whether it is just income in the general course of our business, all of that has to be treated as income. Under statement of recommended practice, under proper accounting rules, you wouldn't treat all of that as income. If it's supposed to last us 50 years, you would put it into a pot marked deferred income. And as and when you used it in future years, you would then show it as income in that year, in the year in which you use it, not in the year that which you receive it all. And that's why there's such a big difference going backwards in some of the figures when you compare AGAR and the SORP. And if I give you an example of that, if you jump to page 4 of 5 of the SORP accounts, which is the movement in reserve statement, you can see, looks like that. So you can see, yep, you can see the top left figure, balance at the 31st of March 2024, which was roughly 2 months after I started. Our general fund balance was minus £577,000. So that's why we were technically insolvent at that point, but we didn't know it because we weren't doing SORP accounts then. We were only doing AGAR accounts. And under AGAR accounts, the total usable reserves, as you see further along that line, 1.3 million, looked like we had lots of money. But as you can now see, most of it was earmarked reserves or capital receipts, which was real money. It meant that we weren't insolvent. We had plenty of money in the bank. But there were conditions and obligations associated with each of those pots of money. The general reserve is the only place, the only amount of money that we've got freedom to do anything we want as a council with it. And that was standing at minus £577,000. So that showed the difference really between SORP and AGAR. If we were doing SORP accounts back then, or in the run up to then, we would have noticed we were getting perilously close to that position rather than do this retrospectively and think, oh, look, we were technically insolvent then. But as you can see, looking down that column of general fund balance, we started off 2 years ago at minus 577,000. We're now at 1.48 million. So we've recovered from that position, and looking across each of the other pots have got significant amounts of money, public money in them. So you've got total usable reserves